ज्योतिष का ज्ञान यह रे रहस्य Astrology's knowledge deep as sea नक्षत्र कहानियाँ कहता यहाँ Constellations tell their stories to thee कुंडलिनी जगाओ आत्मा जागृत करो Awaken Kundalini, let your spirit rise ऊर्जा भीतर से बहती है Energy flows from deep inside
Welcome to the Quicksilver Astrology Report for the week of February 10th, 2025. I'm Tony Victor, and this is my Astrological Tarot Report. How I do things is I kind of generate you guys a horoscope based on the principles of the Golden Dawn system and kind of distill it down to a couple cards. We do take into consideration the regular planets, where they fall in their signs, and the aspects they create. However, we end up just with 2 cards that are shown to you on the chart that I provide, but I do consider a lot of the factors involved in what they are bringing us in terms of their energy. All right, our first aspect is going to be Moon trine Neptune, Moon at 28 degrees of Cancer, and Neptune at 28 degrees of Pisces. So very emotional with the Moon, Neptune, Cancer, and Pisces all together here. Pisces, water sign, Cancer, water sign. We're feeling a lot of emotion in this. We have the 3 of Cups for our Moon, and this kind of this can be about partying, work affiliations. It can be about creativity. So it definitely could be a creativity in this sense, considering the fact that we have Pisces involved, and Neptune can get in there too, and kind of Neptune and Pisces, of course, you know, you're looking at deep emotionally connected things going on here. But with the 9 of Cups there too, it's manifesting something. So yeah, you could be manifesting something in the sense you're creating something artistic, but also it is one of those times where it could be something that's overindulgences. That's the 9 of Cups, and then also paired with the 3 of Cups, could go overboard. So be mindful of what it is that you're doing at certain times and try not to go overboard. That being said, you know, it can also be related to addiction. So watch out for that too. And another way to take this, if you want to, we can talk about the energy of the cards in reversal. My intention was to start to look at these cards in terms of the reversals too. However, we don't have any retrogrades as of yet. So once we do, I'll start to integrate those because they would manifest as reversals. Retrogrades kind of turn the aspects around a little bit when we introduce them into our planetary transiting movements. So we'll worry about that when it happens. However, I just want to talk about that too, that the cards have a reversal meaning as well as their upright. And we've not seen any yet since I started to do this. I've not focused on any of that. Not that we really had much retrograde energy going on. But for the most part, I've just tried to stick with the upright meaning for ease of understanding for people that are viewing it. However, I do plan on changing it up a little bit in the future, just so we try and get a more accurate reading. Not to say that that energy can't be manifested as either reversal or an upright. It can be either way, depending on how you personally use that energy. And, of course, that's going to be everyone else, too, how they do it as well. But that being said, the 9 of Cups in reversal can also be about releasing toxins from the body, like a sweat lodge situation, or fasting or something like that. So that's a possibility, too. Maybe you've had too much, and you're going to reverse that by trying to alleviate some of that internal toxicity. So that could be a consideration as well. Now we're going to move on to our next aspect, Mercury square Uranus. Mercury at 23 degrees of Aquarius and Uranus at 23 degrees of Taurus. So in this aspect here, we have the 10 of Swords and the 10 of Pentacles. We're looking at something being dismantled. Something's being taken apart with the 10 of Swords. And the 10 of Pentacles is established structures, government structures, family. So it can be mostly about, in this particular situation, how I'm seeing it, is it's going to affect a lot of people on the collective level as an Aquarian type of situation. And it's happening very quickly with the mercurial energy. Uranus is that instability in Taurus. We'll definitely be seeing a lot of stability issues going on here because Mercury's just going to make things happen so quickly. Things are going to be taken down rapidly. Lots of government structures are coming apart right now as we speak. Lots of agencies are being taken apart. If you're paying attention to the news, how that's going to end up benefiting us or not, we will see. But the situation is such that it's happening so quickly that nobody can really keep up. And that's what's going on with Mercury. Mercury and Uranus together, it just can cause mayhem. Uh, for better or for worse, Uranus is that unpredictable energy. So while it can be very good for us in a planet of fortune, it can also be it can be the opposite at times too. It just really depends on a lot of things. It's just very unpredictable energy, and as something that's going to take, well, this is not going to take a long time, but in terms of how things play out, during these next 4 years, we can't really predict ultimately what's going to happen. We can try to do our best, but nobody's going to be able to predict it 100% and figure it out exactly as it is. We can do readings on it all we want, but it's hard to be objective about things depending on what side of the fence you sit on, or if you're even on the fence at all. Maybe you're just a fence sitter. You could be a fence sitter too. That's fine. You don't have to be on one side or the other. You can just observe things impartially, and I find that that's best to do. It's best to do that as a reader, to try and be objective and give the best possible information I can to my viewers. So with that being said, we're going to end up moving on to the next aspect, which will be Moon opposition Pluto. Moon is at 2 degrees of Leo, and Pluto is at 2 degrees of Aquarius. So for this particular placement, we end up having the Seven of Wands and the Seven of Swords. And with this, we're looking at a situation where somebody's on guard in the Seven of Wands, and then somebody's taking something away in the Seven of Swords. So Seven of Wands, Seven of Swords, it's a push forward type of energy. Either running away with something, grabbing something and taking it away, or you're kind of fighting someone too. Maybe it's, that could be interesting. So try and be safe when you're on the streets. Pluto's kind of that, it can be something hidden too. So it could be a hidden danger with Pluto and Moon. So yeah, watch yourself when you're traveling, and yeah, try to keep your valuables safe, because that could end up manifesting as, on a personal level, just the Moon. Although Pluto is more collective, and we're talking about Aquarius, Leo is very personal. Okay, so something coming out of the shadows in a sense to take something from you. So yeah, then that's not necessarily you personally. Again, that's also on a collective level too. So something being taken, and that can be kind of a thief or robbery type of situation. So it can be a great robbery, and not a very nice one at that. It could be a kind of taking something by force. So however that manifests, it's not going to just be on a personal level. It's also going to be on a collective level. And, but it could be taking something for oneself, or it could be taking something for everyone. It could be something as good as that. We can look at it in a good way. But that opposition energy can happen. And it can be the result of a single action or multiple actions. But what you're going to end up having, I think, at the end of this, also on a collective level, is it's kind of a wealth being taken, because Pluto's hidden wealth, and Aquarius is the collective level. So something will end up in the hands of the people, as it were, on a metaphorical level and also literal level. You could say that. Is it something physical? It could be. We're not talking about Pentacles here, and we don't have an earth sign. We have a fire sign, and we have a air sign. So it may be something else that's not physical, but that's a little bit harder to explain. And then Pluto is kind of one of those physical things, but also very deeply spiritual and sometimes very much hidden. So I'm going to say that it's probably going to end up being something physical on the collective level, and it's going to be a reappropriation or a reclamation of sorts by force, by someone, for the people and the greater good of the people. Okay, Next reading for the last aspect of February the 10th. Moon trine Venus. Moon is at 4 degrees of Leo, giving us the 9 of Wands. And Venus at 4 degrees of Aries is going to give us the 6 of Wands. And it's a trine. This is going to be kind of a showing off type of energy here. I feel like, you have your gentleman in the 6 of Wands. He's dressed very nicely. Now, while it's a card of leadership and victory, rides to success, it could be it could be like a parade showing off situation. You got Leo involved in here, and you got Venus. Both together love to show off. It's a very much showy type of energy. And Aries and Leo together, it's a very fiery, very aggressive type of energy. Well, the 9 of Wands is more of kind of a structured energy, and it's that hermetic energy. The nine of the major arcana is the hermit. You have that energy where it's knowledge, it's established, it's something that's been earned over time, and it's also placing fortification too. So in the sense of you think you might be waiting for attack. However, that's not in this case. We're looking at a trine. We're looking at something much more positive, and I think this is kind of like, in a sense of Venus is putting on a nice outfit, and so is Aries and Leo, because Leo loves to show off, and Aries likes to be the boss. So it's kind of that boss energy is the six of Wands, how that's manifesting in this. Somebody who's an established boss, kind of showing off, or you're taking that role and you're presenting yourself in a particular light. And that's how I see this as. It's you taking on that role to become a leader. So you might be you personally showing off. It doesn't have to be, you're not going to a parade or whatever necessarily. You'd just be in the workplace, you personally showing off to other people. And that boss energy there is that Aries there. So not necessarily physical, but you're going to want to show off and or be the boss, or somebody is. All right, so the day before we had Mercury square Uranus, and now we have Sun square Uranus on the 11th. So Sun at 23 degrees of Aquarius and Uranus at 23 degrees of Aquarius. This is giving us the same cards as before, but it's going to play out maybe a little bit differently here. With the 10 of Swords and the 10 of Pentacles. So what's the difference here between the Sun? The Sun ends up being more personal, just like Leo. And Uranus is collective, and Taurus is being on the physical plane. So Uranus collective on the physical plane, but Sun in Aquarius. So this is interesting because it's personal and yet it's very much connected to the collective. So something that's going to let's just kind of break it down card by card here in their own placement. Sun at 23 degrees of Aquarius as the 10 of Swords. It's kind of, I see that as the end of the personal and dissolution into the collective. So it's the end of one way of thinking and the beginning of another way of thinking, because the 10 of Swords is, Swords is the suit of ideas and thoughts. Whereas kind of the Wands is fresh ideas, the beginning of something, the initiation of something. So this is more ideas that are more long-standing, perhaps not just inspiration, but we're looking at the air signs in their final manifestation of the suit, basically, before you get to the court cards. And as the 10 of Swords, it's talking about breaking structures down and dismembering, taking things apart, the end of things. So it's going to be the end of, I see the end of the personal and ending up being more on the collective level for the physical world. So something that's going to affect us positively, hopefully, even though it's square, because we're taking something away that ends up becoming kind of a benefit to all of us. However, there's that sense of established structure, and we're going to have to tear down structures in order to make it happen. So that's a difficulty of it. That's kind of the square energy of the situation. So it's not just focusing on the personal anymore. It's for everybody. And even though it's making us unstable in Taurus with Uranus there, it could potentially be for the greater good. It's a better outcome for all of us once we can realize that there's other people than ourselves involved in this larger situation. Okay, so now that we've had the Sun square Uranus, we're going to be talking about the Moon square Uranus on the 12th. Okay, and same kind of energy situation going on here. The Moon in Leo, though, yeah, that's not really where Moon wants to be. But yeah, it's going to be kind of a more of a selfish application here. In this case, the Moon being in Leo, it wants to be kind of selfish with its emotions here, keep them to themselves, perhaps, or make them be more important. And that's not really going to work out in with the Uranian energy here. Uranus is not really selfish. It likes to give things to people. It can be that way. It can be a benefit for people. Um, and then Taurus, that's the world as a whole. That's physical reality. It's on the earthly plane, physical pleasures, structures like religious structures. That's the Pope or the Hierophant as a major arcana card. That's what Taurus is. It becomes that. And with your 10 of Wands in Leo, it's somebody carrying a heavy burden. That could be a heavy emotional burden. And that's going to also be related to the Ten of Pentacles. But how does that come together with the Ten of Pentacles? I think it's more familial related in this particular situation. Somebody's carrying a heavy burden in order to maintain a familial structure. So that's a family. So this is going to hit people in a very personal way, perhaps. It could be an elderly burden to take care of. It could be somebody elderly that is going to in the family that needs help, that needs being taken care of because of a sickness and illness. It can be that sort of a thing. But yeah, it's more. It looks like it's more familials because you have the Ten of Pentacles there, and it is going to affect people on the earthly plane. It can be unpredictable burdens. So an emotional burden, as well as it's going to end up being physical because it's Taurus. But some sort of burden could be put upon someone during this time because of the Ten of Wands. So hopefully it's nothing that's too burdensome, but it's going to end up being something like that. It could also be carrying it to a conclusion, as the Ten of Pentacles is the end of the Wands suit. So whether it's tough or not, it's going to be hopefully carried to the end successfully. And that is the nice part about the Ten of Wands, whereas as opposed to the other card we've been looking at, the Ten of Swords, it kind of comes apart. So completion one way or another with the tens. All right, so now we got our full moon in Leo, sun at 24 degrees of Aquarius, and moon at 24 degrees of Leo. So it ends up being sun opposition moon. You're looking at the Two of Swords for the sun, and then the Two of Wands for the moon. So a decision to be made for certain. Or not wanting to look at something, but still having to make a decision. And you have the gentleman with the Two of Swords, or it's a woman or man. It's kind of looks like it's hard to really tell, but the subject is wearing a white robe, and the hands are across the chest with two swords pointing in either direction, and the moon is still overhead, but it's hard to tell if it's twilight or what type of day it really is. Either it's early morning or kind of early evening. It could be that. And the gentleman has a blindfold over his eyes. So it's a tough decision because we can't necessarily see what is in front of us. The decision ahead and how that's going to affect us. And that's kind of what we're looking at with the Two of Wands. There's a portal. He's holding a world in his hand, the gentleman with the red cloak, and he's trying to examine a proper course of action, but it's hard to see the future. We don't know what's going to happen, necessarily. And that split decision is going to need to be made. You're going to go one way or you're going to go the other. But there's a big potential for a massive change here at this moon in Leo. And it's going to also be there. The Aquarian thing is there. There's a change collectively going on, and your decision may be based on something that's going on in the world collectively as a whole. And what is this decision to be made? It's really hard to say, but it's going to affect you personally, being as it's in Leo. It could be career, it could be based around pleasure, it could be based around your own identity. Leo being related to the sun, that is you. But Moon is very emotional, so it's going to be a decision based on one's own one's own emotions, and kind of your conflict between your inner world and your outer world, and that's what the Moon and Sun energy going on here is. And it just kind of makes things a little bit more difficult, being that the Moon is in Leo, and Leo has a conflict with their own emotions in this particular case, because the Moon is not at home in Leo. So it's a difficult decision to be made, and it could be a big one for you. It also could be a big one for all of us. Not just you personally, but there could be a decision to be made on a collective level. How that's going to manifest, it could be in a number of ways, of course. All right, we'll be looking at the last aspect of the 12th, Moon opposition Mercury. Moon at 26 degrees of Leo, giving us a Four of Wands, and Mercury at 26 degrees of Aquarius, giving us a Four of Swords. So this could be a rite of passage. It can also very much be some sort of initiation, being that the Four of Swords is about death in a sense, and death is kind of a rebirth in terms of an initiatory action. One way of being ends and another begins in this initiation. It's also celebrations, relaxation with the Four of Swords, the celebrations of Four of Wands in this case. So it could be a celebration vacation. You've been waiting a long time for this. It could be that. You might be taking some time off, perhaps. Something as simple as that, okay? But with the Moon still in Leo here in this particular situation, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. However, that opposition energy, the Mercury in Aquarius with the swords, it wants a rest, a rest from communication, and especially taking time off from other people. So that's very much the Four of Swords in this case in Aquarius and Mercury, that wanting to communicate, but not so much in this case, because it becomes loud in Aquarius, and Mercury wants peace and silence in this case, which is unusual for Mercury, but as the Four of Swords, that's how it's manifesting. And that's kind of where the conflict comes into play, with the oppositional energy of the Moon playing against Mercury here. And that Moon wants the emotional energy of celebration, and you can't celebrate unless you have other people, right? Well, that's not true. You can very much celebrate on your own. And maybe that's a way to reconcile this here. A personal celebration of sorts at home. It could be that in the quietude, solitudinous homestead. Yeah, it could be that. But there's that oppositional energy of wanting to be around others, but also wanting to be quiet and at peace. With the Four of Swords, someone's trying to be at peace, not in a bad way necessarily, but yeah. It could be a good thing here. Just trying to get some rest and relaxation. All right, so we move on to the 13th. Wednesday, we have... I'm sorry, that would end up being not Wednesday, but that would end up being Thursday. So Thursday, we're looking at, again, these two cards appear like they did on the 11th. You're looking at the Ten of Pentacles and the Ten of Swords. They do a little bit of role reversal here in terms of their order of appearance. The Ten of Pentacles is appearing first this time as the Moon. So Moon is squaring Jupiter. Moon's at 11 degrees of Virgo. Ten of Pentacles, and Jupiter's at 11 degrees of Gemini. And that is giving us a Ten of Swords. So with the square energy here, it's something tough. And again, we're talking about dismantling structures. That's how this is looking like. And more so on the side of ideas, the way we think about things is going to kind of be tore down. With the Jupiter being in Gemini, big ideas, the end of a lot of big ideas. But, these are probably going to end up being things that have already occurred to us in the past. Because 10 is established structures. It doesn't matter what it is, where it's come from. It's something that's been around for a long time. And the moon is transitory, yes, it's true, but it's in Virgo. So these are kind of pure structures, things that we thought were pure may no longer be that to us. Either that's because of revelations that come to light. Not that aspect of it is showing up in this particular reading, but the fact that that's going on in many other areas right now, planetarily speaking, it's probably going to be related to that. Okay, so big ideas coming to an end. These pure structures, we thought these were great, the best ideas, these established things that we've looked at with great respect for a long time, they no longer may hold the same purity as they did before in the world of Virgo. And with that 10 of Pentacles there, being that it's been long standing, and then Jupiter's just going to come in and wreck it like a giant wrecking ball. Jupiter is something that's massive, that can be very big. And that 10 of Swords is going to be like 10 wrecking balls coming through and tearing down your structures here. And we've already kind of talked about that earlier in this particular reading. In this series of readings. So with these aspects going on, I think it's really just going to blow the doors off of what people think in general. And this may not necessarily be so much in terms of the world of actual physical structures, in terms of how this aspect manifests, but it's just the way that people are going to be thinking about it, how it's surrounding all that, and the eyes of Gemini, because that's mental structures. Although there's two sides to the coin, this is going to affect everybody, and it's going to be a big thing. February 14th, Moon opposition Saturn. Moon's at 18 degrees of Virgo, giving us the Eight of Pentacles, and it is opposite Saturn at 18 degrees of Pisces, giving us the Eight of Cups. So not wanting to finish something, it could be that. It's a difficult decision between finishing something that you've been working on and leaving it behind. That's very simple to see in this, especially with Saturn there, and Virgo is also in there too, both very much about work. Pisces is being emotionally connected to it, as is the moon, perhaps in this case, but it becomes very physical for us in terms of Saturn being that physical thing and Virgo being work in general. So that's what we're looking at here. I think that's probably a very easy one to look at. Some sort of work, whatever that is, or project. And you could become emotionally attached to that and not know whether you want to finish it or not, because it could be difficult for you. All right, next and last aspect of the 14th. Moon trine Uranus. Moon at 23 degrees of Virgo, giving us the Four of Pentacles. And Uranus at 23 degrees of Taurus, giving us the Ten of Pentacles. Okay, so I see it as holding on to some sort of wealth. It can be greed. That's the Four of Pentacles there. It can also be, things like gardening and such, the earth, kind of investment in the earth and the outcome of its growth. It could be that, but more so it's self-centeredness. You see the gentleman holding that circle in the middle. He looks like he's driving. It looks like it's a steering wheel in a sense, and it steers him more so than he steers it. It's that sense of greed for sure. And the Ten of Pentacles, yeah, that could be established structures, established wealth. In this case, I see it's more as wealth because the Four of Pentacles is there. So greed over some sort of wealth, institutional wealth, familial wealth, investments in general. But it's a good thing. Something is actually good here because it's a trine. So they may not be negative things. And Uranus and Taurus, we know they can be instability. But in this case, it might shake things up for us in a positive way because it is a trine. So if it's related to monetary things, it could be beneficial for you on this particular day. All right, February 15th, Moon opposition Neptune. Moon at 28 degrees of Virgo, Nine of Pentacles, and Neptune at 28 degrees of Pisces, Nine of Cups. So there's this sense of opposition between personal security and personal indulgence. You want to be safe and secure in your funds, but you want to blow all your money too. You want to spend it all, and you want to enjoy yourself. It's a tough choice. You don't want to put it away for a rainy day or retirement. You just want to spend it all and have a good time and get fat off the land, so to speak, right? So you want to drink, you want to have your cake and eat it too. And you can't have that cake because you're going to eat it. So it could go either way here, and that's going to be a tough choice. Virgo being working for something, and Neptune in Pisces, that very emotional connection to it, and also in this case, being that it's the Nine of Cups in Neptune with Pisces there, you're kind of looking at, that's kind of that more addiction than self-indulgence, really. So the indulgence turns into addiction, and it can become problematic, especially in terms of monetary issues surrounding that. So better to work and invest in this case, I would say, especially, rather than spend the money on a good time. So be wary of that. You're going to find that the other will get you in trouble more so than being safe and secure in the Nine of Pentacles as the Moon in Virgo. You're safer with that energy here in this particular case. All right, Moon trine Pluto, the next aspect of the 15th. Moon at 2 degrees of Libra, and Pluto at 2 degrees of Aquarius. All right, 4 of Swords and 7 of Swords. 4 being our lunar energy in Libra, and that's relationships, justice, and then the 7 of Swords is kind of taking something and reattributing it elsewhere, perhaps taking resources and moving them elsewhere, whether that be kind of an illegal or an illegal way, and taking them for somebody's benefit. So Aquarius, so this is a collective thing that's going on. I see it as, and it can be a rest and relaxation too. This is something we looked at last week as well. These two cards in particular. Last week we talked about it in terms of just leaving town briefly and taking a rest, taking a vacation. And it was a short distance, I believe, because it was something that was in Gemini the last time. These two cards that we looked at them. But this is a little bit different this time. We're kind of looking at Pluto being that deeper transformative energy in Aquarius. So we kind of look at the hidden things in Aquarius, taking something that's hidden and moving it into the public eye. And that is the 7 of Swords. And the 4 of Swords is that rest and relaxation, as we said, but also kind of burying things and putting things to rest. So we can be taking something that's been hidden and moving it elsewhere and burying it elsewhere. That could also be happening too. It doesn't have to be anything physical. It can be an idea. Pluto is deep secrets, but also is wealth as well. So some sort of relationship to the collective nature of reality. It can be that. A couple different things going on here. All the above that I mentioned are possibilities. And the last aspect of the 15th is Moon opposition Venus. Moon at 7 degrees of Libra and Venus at 7 degrees of Aries, giving us the 9 of Swords and the 9 of Wands. Moon in Libra. This is kind of some sort of suffering going on, or it could be a spot of comfort in relationship with the blanket over the gentleman's legs. That's a sign of comfort. And Libra's about relationships. So it could be some sort of comforting relationship that ends up giving us strength of character in the 9 of Wands. And Venus there. But it could also be, with the opposition, it's kind of a sense of suffering in a relationship, and yet you find it helps build your character. The suffering that you endure in the relationship gives you more character. And it can be as simple as that or as difficult as that, I guess, depending on how things go and your relationship is. But that's kind of what I get out of that one. It's kind of more clear cut for me because I see there's that lunar energy there, but also the Venusian emotional, devotional energy, nurturance, and the relationship side of things. Although Venus is outside of its ruling house of Libra, that's still on our mind in Aries. And then we get to the last day of our week, the 16th. We have Moon trine Jupiter, Moon at 11 degrees of Libra, and Jupiter at 11 degrees of Gemini. So this is a positive situation in the end with the trine. Moon to 11 degrees of Libra. We have the Four of Swords, and then we have the Ten of Swords with Jupiter at 11 degrees of Gemini. So the end of some sort of idea in Gemini, and I think we've had a little bit of this before in the rest of the readings we've done this for this week, kind of the ending of ideas, being that it's Jupiter. It's that big wrecking ball that tears down old thought structures, especially in Gemini. And it puts them to rest in the Four of Swords. Things will never be the same again. Libra, we're going to leave that relationship behind. Whatever we thought that was, it's not going to be that anymore. Very easy to cut this down and figure out, distill it down, what it's going to end up looking like in terms of the planetary energy we're looking at and how it's going to shape things. Not that we know what this means in any particular case. It's a variety of things. It's a variety of structures that we're experiencing now, especially considering that we're looking at the dismantling of various structures. And now this is ideas too. Ideas become part of that, especially with this energy here. Libra, it's that learning, it's that knowledge, it's that emotional attachment to the energy, though, the emotional energy of that knowledge, those ideas with the moon, and then the Jupiter is just tearing them down in this case. It becomes the wrecking ball as the Ten of Swords in Gemini. Okay, and the last aspect of the day and the week for the 16th, this is a bit tougher one. I don't want to end it on this, but we'll talk about something else that's going on too after we finish talking about this. Moon square Mars. Moon is at 17 degrees of Libra, and Mars is at 17 degrees of Cancer. As we said before, Mars does not like to be in Cancer, which is why it makes this a difficult square situation. We have, so the 17 degrees of Libra with the moon, we have the Ten of Swords. And Ten of Swords is a tough card depending on the situation. But together normally without even looking at the signs or the planets, we're just boiling it down to the degrees and the minor arcana. We have kind of the ending of hopes and dreams. Something is over with and not going to happen. And in Libra, that can take place as relationships. And then with Cancer, though, Mars and Cancer, and then that Ten of Cups, that's a familial thing. That's the hope and dreams. Maybe you deciding not to have a family. That's the end of having a family. You thought about it, but it's not going to work for whatever reason. It can be as personal as that, as simple as that, really. And with the Libra and Cancer energy, this is more of a personal level. We're not really talking about collective planets. So yeah, I would say it's more personal relationships. It's one that's going through and experiencing. And then that Libra energy, the ending of a sort of a relationship to something. And Mars is not good here, unfortunately. And in Cancer, I see that as a family structure. It's at home life. It's a home life. It's something that's going to affect one's home life personally. And there's ways to change this energy and manifest it positively. If you choose kind of what hopes and dreams you want to let go of, or something that you've been thinking about for a while, change your perspective. The Ten of Swords is not just about the ending of something, it's the beginning of something once that 10 is passed. And you're going to, from the 10, you can only either go forward, right? So it has to be something else after the 10. After that's over, it becomes something else. So even though something else might not work for you, you can take that square energy and force a change in your own personal life to make it something positive, a new hope and a dream. out of that Ten of Swords and transform it into the Ten of Cups. Manifest something different. Okay? And think of it as a fresh start. All right, and I'll leave you all with one final note here that on the 14th, Mercury is going to be moving into Pisces. So what we're going to be having going on here is kind of communications and thoughts are going to be shifting more towards the spiritual and the emotional. It'll become easier for us to focus on those things collectively. But yeah, that could end up being big change for people. Although Mercury is about little changes too, and happens very quickly. It just depends on what other stuff is going along with that. And being as that we're kind of more focused on old structures being torn down right now, maybe that's still in the background and it might become more prominent later on, being that we're shifting into the age of Aquarius with Pluto, and these deeper spiritual truths are going to be more of a focus collectively, and it can just take time to happen. So the physical dependency may shift more towards the ephemeral and spiritual, but again, it's not something that just happens overnight. Although it seems like we're moving at breakneck speed when it comes down to tearing other structures apart and starting with newer things, and kind of this rebirthing process. And then also we're going to end up having the sun shifting into Pisces. Okay, so yeah, sun moving into Pisces. That's also going to change our focus as well. So maybe that Mercury together with the sun shifting into Pisces can definitely shift us towards a more spiritual time and on a collective level. And those are kind of really the most important things I wanted to talk about today. And that brings our weekly horoscope to a close. Thank you for listening to the Astrological Tarot Report. Again, I'm Tony Victor, and you're listening to the Quicksilver Astrology channel on YouTube, or you might be listening to my old one, GTR Slayer. Both are great accounts. All right, I'll see y'all next time.
ज्योतिष का ज्ञान यह रे रहस्य Astrology's knowledge deep as sea नक्षत्र कहानियाँ कहता यहाँ Constellations tell their stories to thee कुंडलिनी जगाओ आत्मा जागृत करो Awaken Kundalini, let your spirit rise ऊर्जा भीतर से बहती है Energy flows from deep inside